I believe in community. I believe in banding together and helping people. And I wish, like, I would love if I lived in a community where people were more, more willing to band together and help each other. Um, with car insurance, maybe we should just make car insurance, cost less. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe I just need to think about that a little bit more. Maybe I just need to think about that a little bit more. Like, I would like for car insurance to be free, but the thing is, like, could we socialize car insurance? I mean, well, maybe we could. Maybe we could subsidize and socialize car insurance. I mean, you already pay for other people's premiums with private car insurance right now, so maybe. Sometimes I just need to think about stuff before I, like, give a verdict. Insurance should be nonprofit. Yeah, insurance should be nonprofit. Insurance should be nonprofit. I kind of want to make way for people that disagree with me a bit more. Should be part of licensing, yeah. Hello.
Hey, what's going on?
Not much.
Hey, how are you?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
Um, I'm not too bad. So, I guess I was wondering why are you pro-choice?
Why am I
What's
pro-choice?
your argument? Yeah.
So my argument is I have multiple arguments as to why I'm pro-choice, but I guess I'll throw this one. My argument is no one can use your body without your consent, and I don't believe that consent to pregnancy or consent to sex is necessarily a consent to pregnancy, especially when someone is actively doing things to try to make it to where they're not getting pregnant. Also, another thing is it's just not my body and not my ability to decide for, an entire demographic of people that most of which I don't even know. And yeah, I just think that people should have, I think people should just have the choice to choose when they want to bring a child into this world or not. I think that also, when people have that choice as to when they're ready to have a child, they become better parents.
Okay, so a few things. The whole thing where you say, I've heard people say this, that the people who make abortion laws are a bunch of men um, who don't know my body and don't know a female's body and stuff like that.
Well, the majority of
But
people who are passing laws are they're men. The majority of people that are in like government are men.
right, but the men make a lot of laws. They're not. I don't think they're specifically saying, now what can we do to oppress women? I mean, that's not and especially now where like you have
Well,
a Democratic majority now, and there have been times where there have been Democratic majorities, and if their rights need to be wrong, why weren't they passed?
that's because see that's the thing. Like, so first off, let me also say I'm not a Democrat. Okay, I don't like the Democratic Party like at all. I don't like the Republican Party or the Democratic Party. Okay, like leftists are entirely different from Democrats. The Democrat and Republican parties are closer to each other than they will ever be to the left. Okay, so especially the way in which American politics measures up to the rest of the world. So the thing is, I actually do believe that there are men out there who want to oppress women because the thing is, it makes money. Because the thing is, when someone is poor and impoverished, when someone is downtrodden because of things that they could not control, like, when a person gets pregnant and then because of laws in place, they're forced to give birth to this child, even though they do not have the means to take care of the child. And this regardless of how they got pregnant, be it consensually, be it assault, regardless of how they got pregnant. They still do not have the means to take care of said child. Like, that makes money for a lot of people who have a shit ton of money, because this person who is poor and desperate will work for anything. So I do think that these people are actively trying to oppress women, and not even just women. I think it's just an oppression of poor people. Because if you think that as a man, and it's something I don't think men think about when they cast their lot in on abortion issues, and that is that if you don't think the state isn't gonna nickel and dime you for child support, like, you got another thing coming, bro. So I think even in men's cases, it benefits men to be pro-choice. Because if you're not, or unless you decide, let me put it this way. if you take away abortion rights, then you also must take away the ability for a man to walk out on a pregnancy, for a man to walk out on a woman who is who is pregnant. If you're going to take away abortion rights, you have to take away the ability for the man to walk away. It's only fair. And the thing is, we have an imbalance in among the gender roles in our society right now, to where men feel like they can make laws on abortion but also walk away from pregnancy scot-free. Like, you don't have to sign the birth certificate if you don't want to when that child is born. You literally do not have to. And if you don't sign that birth certificate, you're now no longer responsible. They can't get you for a child support payment. So, like, that it's just really unfair. It's a really imbalance, and it's a really unfair sort of circumstance. So if you want to take away the woman's right, then you also have to take away the men's right. And I don't see, and a lot of the times with these abortion arguments, I don't see people talking about the ways in which men are also contribute to abortion rates. Like, there are many men who say, well, the child's not mine, so I'm not going to take care of it. Or what else? Sorry, I'm getting distracted by chat because there's a lot of other things I want to touch upon that people are saying. But it's what I'm saying tracking? Does that make sense? Yeah, you can get a DNA test. But if you don't sign that birth certificate, last time I checked, or it might differ, but depending on the state. But if you don't sign that birth certificate, they can't get you with a child support payment. Last time I checked, at least. Like, there is such thing as a fatherly abortion where you can walk out on the pregnancy if you want to. Men do get a choice. And that's what I'm saying. That also encompasses pro-choice as well. Both parties have the choice to walk out if they don't want to be parents.
Okay, so first of all, if you are laying down with a man like that, why would you lay down with someone who thinks like that? Who you automatically assume is going to walk out, or you think would walk out? What about, why don't you find, be in a stable relationship before you take that chance that you might become pregnant?
Well, but see, so...
Can I talk? I let you talk for a long time.
So go ahead. Go. Sorry, go ahead.
So it's very hard to become pregnant now, right? If you're responsible. So when a woman ovulates in the best chance for pregnancy, it's usually 2 to 3 days out of the month, right? So you take that percentage of the month or the year, whatever. That's a very small percentage. And then you add on, if a man wears a condom, if you make him wear a condom, condoms are 98% effective. So that's 2% that would be a birth control failure. And if you're taking oral contraception, that's 96 to 97% effective. So you're talking about a very small percentage of people who have unplanned pregnancies, right?
So are you saying that the majority of people who are getting abortions for pregnancies that they planned?
It's called irresponsibility.
What do you mean by what's irresponsible?
If you don't take your birth control every day like you're supposed to. Right?
What if she forgot? What if she's working all the time because she works 2 jobs to stay afloat and she forgot to take her birth control one night? Should I punish her because she made a mistake? Should I punish her with this burden of taking care of a child because she made a mistake? You can't just tell people to be chaste and to not have sex. You can't do that. Also, birth control fails all the time. It fails all the time. It's a percentage. It's not absolute. Absolute, yeah.
Right, but we're talking about a very small percentage here, though. And a lot of times when birth control, like the side effects and ineffectivity, the ineffectiveness of the oral birth control, that is mainly because, obesity, smoking, drinking, taking antibiotics, something else that the woman should know about before.
So are you putting the entire blame here on the woman? Is that what you're doing?
No, I'm not.
That's what it sounds like.
I'm just saying we can't use excuses for this, and you can ultimately it is the woman's biological process to do that, right? if we were talking
When
if a
she
man
chooses
gets
to,
pregnant,
yes.
if the man could carry babies, I would be saying the same thing, right? So it's
Would
not
you?
equal
Because
opportunity.
I get the feeling that they wouldn't. I get the feeling that if men could carry babies, you could get an abortion at a fucking Jiffy Lube. Like, I get the, I don't agree with that. I think a big, and herein I think lies the problem is that men do not know what it's like to go through pregnancy. So it's a much big, and you notice this with basically any issue in society. When there's a person who does not have to deal with that issue, or when a person doesn't have to deal with that issue, their opinion on that issue is kind of clouded, and it doesn't cover everything because again they don't know what it's like to go through that, and it's a common thing that happens, and it's just how people are. People don't know something, so they and a lot of times, we talk with each other and we say things that may not be, may not consider, may not take everything into account with the situation. But like, the thing that I've noticed with a lot of men is that they have these ideas or these opinions on abortion simply because they will never know what it's like to be pregnant, most likely.
So because I'm a man, I can't have an opinion and want to say
You can have an opinion. I'm not saying you can't, because what I'm saying right now is my opinion on abortion. So it would be hypocritical of me to say that men can't have opinions. I do believe that men can have opinions on abortion, and a lot of women do believe that men can have opinions. The problem is when that opinion is flawed, and then that flawed opinion becomes legislation. That's the problem that I and many pro-choicers have, is that is when men, like, you can say that I don't agree with abortion or I think abortion's bad. That's fine. You can have that opinion. Like, I don't necessarily like guns, and I don't think guns are the greatest thing in the world, but I'm not actively out here trying to say that we should take away everybody's guns. Also, because I believe that that would be physically impossible to do, because there's more guns in America than there are fucking people. But also, it's just I just don't think that someone who never will necessarily experience that thing should be making laws and passing legislation on that thing. Like, there's a reason why so many women tend to be pro-choice and why so many women tend to be against abortion laws, because women will know what it's like to get pregnant, and men most of the time do not.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So, when you see on the news there's a robbery or a shooting, does it give you the same kind of anger or desire to be like angry and want to do something about someone who hurts a woman, someone who hurts an elder person, somebody who hurts someone with a mental disability or a physical disability, or someone who's being a child abuse case, anything like that? Do you feel the same anger?
Yeah.
As if it was a man on a man crime?
Wait, do I feel the same anger when a man does a crime?
Do you feel the same anger, yes or no, when you see on the news the crime when, like, a man assaults a man,
Yeah.
or shoots a man?
Yeah.
Do you have the same reaction as that, as if a man did something horrible to a woman?
Oh yeah, of course. Because harm is harm regardless of who does it to who. Harm is harm, period. The thing is, when I see that stuff on the news, I realize that it's a systemic issue. Even if it's like a white person on a white person doing something, it's still it most likely 9 times out of 10, if you actually look into that issue, we can eventually get back to a societal or a systemic issue, a problem within society that leads to these things happening. So my whole philosophy, my own philosophy that I've come up with, and maybe this does sound similar to what somebody else has said before. Societal problems are like a hydra. If you cut off one head with, like, let's say legislation, right? You cut off one head by saying, oh, the problem is drugs, let's go ahead and ban drugs, okay? The problem is when you do that and you don't go deep enough to address the real underlying systemic issues, which may be, drug use is a result of extreme abject poverty. If you don't go deeper to address that, then all you're doing is making more potential problems down the road. And you got to address the root cause of the issue before you can. Did he get disconnected because did he leave on purpose, or did he just get disconnected? I saw that. I don't know if he was setting up a fallacy. I think he just generally probably had a question. Oh, here he is. He disconnected by accident. Yeah, he got disconnected. Okay, yeah, here we go. Sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
So my point was, pro-lifers and people who support this position do have such strong feelings because they are generally helpless or less they can't defend themselves.
Oh, I see what you're talking about. Okay. I see where you're going. Keep going.
A woman ideally can't, defend herself against a stronger and more powerful man, right? Or an older person, or someone with a disability. They can't defend themselves as well as if it was a man versus a man. So I don't think it's wrong for men to want to help and make laws to prevent violence against the child in the womb. I don't think that's misogynistic. I don't think that's men not knowing what goes on with a pregnancy. That's honestly what society should do, and what pro-lifers do is they want to help the helpless.
Okay, so so I like how you brought up the idea of, someone like a person robbing another person or what have you, because this segues into a point that someone made. It's a very famous pro-choice quote. I forget who made it, and people probably already know what I'm about to say. But the thing is, the thing about being a pro-lifer, oftentimes, and I'm hearing what you're saying. The thing about being a pro-lifer, oftentimes, is that it's easy. It's easy to say, "Oh, let's defend poor, helpless, quote unquote, babies in the womb," right? But at the same time, a lot of these people who call themselves pro-life, that's where they stop. They don't go to, minorities who get wrongly imprisoned, or they don't go to, women who get assaulted. They don't go to, what's it called? Like the children that get shot in schools. They don't go to not even just minorities who are wrongfully convicted, but just criminals in general of any race or ethnicity who get thrown in jail because oftentimes due to systemic reasons. The pro-life or caring about fetuses is the perfect thing to care about, because to try to seem as though you're a good person, because it doesn't ask you to challenge any sort of societal norm or standard, or deconstruct any of the power imbalances and the structures that are inherent to our modern day society. It's the perfect way in which you can seem as though you're a good person without actually doing anything or raising the question of what could actually be done to ensure a better society. Yeah, incarcerated people. Thank you, Chatter. And that's my problem with pro-lifers. Yes, you can try to say that if you want to lower abortion rates, that's great. There are things the studies that have been done that have shown that there are things that can be done to actually lower abortion rates that are more effective than just enacting legislation that says, women, you can't get an abortion now. So if you get pregnant, you're fucked. There's other things that can be done and that have been proven to be effective. For one thing, raising wages, because a lot of the times people get abortions because they can't afford to take care of a child. Better, just in general, better social and safety nets. The thing is, a lot of people want to have children. My fiance and I would love to have a child. We plan on having children within the next 2 years or so. But the thing is, if we were to get pregnant right now, there is a chance we would get an abortion. There's also a chance we would probably raise the child, because we also have we have a good support system. We are very privileged. We have a good support system that we would be able to lean on should we have a child. But even then, it would still be difficult. It would still be a challenge, because we both work. Or at least I work a very strenuous, physically demanding job. So, it would still be hard for us to take care of a child. But I also understand that not everybody has the same, not everybody has the same resources that I have. Not everybody has a support system. And that's the reason why many people, many women do get abortions, because they don't have support systems. They don't have the means of taking care of a child. And even if you say give a child up for adoption, the adoption system, like the whole foster care adoption system, that system is incredibly bad. And I would not want to put a child through that. We should put more, we should reform that system as well. Another thing we should reform is like comprehensive sex education, because again, you really can't get pregnant. You really can't get an abortion if you don't get pregnant. Another thing that I would like to bring up is, what a chatter said on my Twitch. Easier access to Planned Parenthood classes. Yeah, easier access to contraceptives. It's not just don't have sex, don't get an abortion. There's so many other things to this issue, and this is why I say that men should not be writing legislation, because they don't think deep enough into this issue, deep enough to where women and pro-choicers often think.
So, for the whole, and there's a lot of things you said, but so the whole contraceptive thing, condoms aren't ordered. Condoms are very cheap, right?
What if I'm poor and I can't, what if I'm poor and I can barely afford to feed myself? Literally, there are people in this country that live paycheck to paycheck to where they cannot afford condoms. It's hard. I know it's wild to think about, but it's true.
Are you going to go buy a Ferrari tomorrow?
Am I what?
Are you going to go buy a Ferrari sports car tomorrow?
No.
Why?
Because it's fucking Wait, are you gonna say that like? No, I'm gonna fall for your trap. No, I'm not gonna buy a Ferrari sports car because it's too expensive, and also, I just don't want a Ferrari. Even if I had the money, I wouldn't buy a Ferrari. I don't want a Ferrari.
So you're not going to do it because you don't have the means and you're not in a position to do the action.
And because I don't want one. That's another big thing. I also just don't want one.
Okay, well, take anything. What do you really want that you can't afford?
Healthcare. I'm not even lying. I'm being honest here. Like, honestly, I would like to say I'm a very humble person. I really don't want much out of life. I just want to be able to, I literally just want to be able to live comfortably. That's it. I don't need like a Ferrari. I don't need a huge house. I don't need all the video games in the world. I just want.
For the sake of argument, say you did.
Okay, you know what? I'll bite the bullet. I would like a car that I really want. I would say, probably if I had the money, I would buy one of those old, early 2000s, like Mustangs. You can get them pretty cheap for like $1,000. Like, that's a car I really want. One of those old, not the one that's like, not the one that looks like a huge muscle car. Not the retro one. I like the Mustang Mach and shit like that. Like, I like those old Mustangs, or like that old, like the Camaro that Bumblebee turned into in the first Transformers movie, the old one, the 1979 or 78 Camaro. Those are the kinds of cars that I like. You know, they're not too expensive. I'd say the most expensive car I'd ever want is maybe a Porsche, but I also don't need one. Even if I had the money, I don't even know if I'd go out and buy a Porsche, because, like, what's the point of buying one of those, honestly? I'd say the most expensive I'd go is probably a Subaru Impreza. And I could probably afford that right now if I took out a loan. I could probably afford a new Subaru Impreza. You know, it's only like 30 grand, maybe. 30, maybe 40 grand. I could probably afford that with a car payment. I get paid decently.
Okay, so I think you've heard this argument before, which is why you sidestepped it and...
Wait, say that again? I couldn't hear you.
I hear the analogy. I said you probably heard this argument before, that's why you sidestepped the analogy.
I actually haven't, but continue.
So, the reason why I asked you if you would buy an expensive sports car, and you would say no, and I say why, and you would say, and I would say because you can't afford it, you don't have the means, and you're not in the position to make that purchase and make that commitment. So why did you take the action? Which is the same as pregnancy. If you're not in the right situation financially, mentally, emotionally, why are you consenting in the action?
Okay, okay. So the thing is, if I were to go and buy, these are two. This is this is a false equivalency of astronomical proportions. So the thing is, I literally I could have sex with my fiance as soon as she came home. Like all I would need is her consent, and we could do it up, right? The thing is, I have to get consent, not even consent. I have to get approved or have the money to go buy that car. Sex is something that is not something that's locked behind a paywall, or at least it's not locked behind a paywall right now. Like I don't have to pay to have sex, especially me. Like I ain't gotta pay for that. Even if I was single, I would not have to pay for sex. Let me tell you. But the thing is, excuse me, that car, that Ferrari, I do have to pay for.
Well, the
Like
argument is,
that I don't think that argument tracks because I literally have to pay for the Ferrari. I have to actually give the money over to buy the Ferrari or buy the Porsche or buy the Camaro. I don't have to spend a dime to have sex. I don't.
so you signed a paper that says I will pay for this, right?
If they decide to, if they look at me and say, yeah, we think you're responsible enough to pay for this car, which is all by like the credit system and shit. If they say, yeah, credit, we'll look at your credit, we'll run your credit. How much do you make? Oh, you only make 18 an hour. Sorry, this is a Ferrari. It's a luxury car. Like you gotta really be busting with dollars in order to pay for it. Sorry, you can't you can't get the Ferrari. Goodbye. That's literally what would happen if I were to try to get a Ferrari. Meanwhile, if I were to have sex, I would have sex.
So you're missing the point here. The point is,
I think you're missing the point.
the point is, you say a lot of women have abortion because they're not financially ready, and it costs a lot of money to raise a child, right?
Do you not see the difference between a Ferrari and a child?
The thing is, you don't have the money.
Okay, but like again, this is why nuance is so important. There's a big difference between a child and a Ferrari. Eventually,
The point.
go ahead.
Can I talk? Can I talk for more than 2 seconds? Let you finish?
Sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I let you go on a 2-minute tirade down the whole inequity thing, down the whole inequity rabbit hole. So the point is, if you are not in the position for the action you're doing, don't do it. How hard is that?
Because again, there are preventative measures you can take to ensure that you don't get pregnant. But again, none of those things are absolute. And also, really, sex is an urge. It's not something that you do just on a whim just because it's fun. It's something that you can't help but do in many instances, which is why when people can't have sex because there's no one around to, consent to, or so they don't have a partner that will consensually, give them sex, people go and they, handle it themselves in private. You can't just say don't have sex. That's not how that works.
Why?
Because that's not how that works.
Why?
Because that's just not how that works. I don't again, there's a difference between it. There's a difference between it because it's a biological urge. What are you talking about? Like,
If you have the biological, you don't have to have sex.
right, but at the same time, we should okay, so again, what you're doing here is you're basically saying that sex should be locked behind a paywall. That's what you're saying.
No.
But you said wait, hold on. You said that if you can't afford it, don't do it. That's literally putting something behind a paywall.
I said if you can't afford the consequences of your actions, then don't do it. If you can't afford a Ferrari, don't sign a paper.
But see, I can though. It's called me getting an abortion. I can afford it.
That's called a cop out.
How is that a cop out?
Because
Do you know the definition of responsibility?
What is it?
The definition of responsibility is just taking control of your situation. A situation that you've one of the definitions of responsibility is taking control of your situation. A woman, when she gets pregnant, she has to make that decision very quickly whether or not to get an abortion. She has to make that decision very quickly whether or not especially if the pregnancy is unplanned, she has to decide, am I going to get an abortion? Am I going to have the child and take care of it? If I have the child, am I going to take care of it, or am I going to give it up for adoption? She has to make all of those decisions very quickly. She is in a situation that she has to take charge of. And so, regardless, she is taking responsibility for her actions. What would technically be her not taking responsibility is her having the child and then just neglecting it. Just leaving it on the floor to just die once it's outside of her. Her not taking responsibility would be her just sitting there and just withering away while something is inside of her, and her and the child both just dying.
Withering away? What does that mean?
Like, if she were to just sit there, this is an extreme hypothetical, but if she were to just sit there and just say, and just like, just waste away and just cease to like just die, not eat, not take care of herself, nothing. If she were to just sit there and just waste away, she would not be taking responsibility of her action. But her getting an abortion is her making the decision. She is taking charge of her situation that she finds herself in, and she is making a conscious decision to take care of it in a way that is going to she's just choosing to take responsibility and take ownership of her situation. That's what she's doing. Abortion is technically taking responsibility. It's taking charge of your situation.
So, not doing something is not the same as taking responsibility.
But she is doing something. She can't take care of it, so she's not going to. I think it would. She's quitting. I mean, I guess sometimes you gotta, yeah, sure, if you want to put it that way. I mean, what's wrong with quitting? If you can't fight a battle, what's the point in continuing to fight?
What's wrong with, it's not being able to, it's being, just quitting and not even trying.
But, like, if I would rather women, and women, not even just women, parents in general, I would rather parents have children when they're ready than they try to have children when they're not ready, and then that child has a very shitty upbringing, and then that child ends up in like the prison system. Meanwhile, this could have all been avoided if she had gotten an abortion, and she had children later when she was ready.
It could have been avoided by not having sex when she's not ready too.
But you can't just tell people not to have sex. That's just not how things work. That's very authoritarian. That's very totalitarian. You can't just tell people not to have sex. It's something that happens in the privacy of their own home. Do you think I should say that this? Okay, I don't like to compare women to inanimate objects, but I know that this is going to ruffle some people's some pro-lifers' feathers. Like, I want to stop mass shootings. So should I take guns out of homes to stop mass shootings?
No, but you can be responsible with it.
How?
Responsible with the guns.
How?
Education.
Okay.
Handling,
Thank you. And guess what? All of that shit could literally tie right into lowering abortion rates, education, comprehensive sex education, making birth control and other things. Making birth control easy and accessible. Let me give you an anecdotal thing with my own life.
No. You don't stop mass shooters, people with guns, by killing them. That's what you don't do.
Wait, what?
You don't stop the gun thing by killing people who have guns.
I mean, if the person with the gun is going around committing a mass shooting, I mean, killing them would stop that mass shooting, yeah.
Yes, but the baby's not killing the mother in most cases.
I mean, in many cases, though, the baby is hazardous to the mother's health. Okay, you know what? Never mind.
What?
The baby, in many cases, is hazardous to the mother's health. Like, you literally have something in you that is the equivalent almost to a parasite.
No, not
How?
The child is giving the mother stem cells that can repair her body system.
It can, but like, is what she getting worth like what she's losing? All of the rapid the hormone imbalances, the rapid body changes, the fact that in many cases the fact that in many cases what is it
Actually, a lot of women like the hormone changes. Their hair is healthier, looks healthier, shinier. Their nails grow. Your pregnancy glow. A lot of women like that.
I mean, but not every woman. not every woman. Like, okay, so
Women that want to kill their children don't.
huh?
Women who want to abort babies don't.
You do understand that like women are not like salivating and like waiting for the chance to get an abortion, right? Oftentimes it's
I never said they were.
well, but the way you're talking about it, the way you're talking about abortions makes it seem as though like there are women who want to get abortions all the time, and that's not the case. Are you one of those people who believes that people abuse abortions?
No.
Okay. So I haven't even used like my biggest.
I don't think women out there are pregnant, trying to get pregnant, just have abortions and brag about it. No. Which is how you're trying to paint me. No.
Like I haven't even used like my biggest, not even, well, I wouldn't say biggest, but like my typical abortion argument that I use on men. I haven't even used that yet. I've just been addressing your points.
Go ahead. What's your biggest argument?
So here's the thing.
Autonomy?
Huh?
Body autonomy?
I mean, that's kind of what I've been arguing this entire time with bodily autonomy. The fact that she has the ability to choose whether or not something uses her body without her consent. But here's the thing. Here's what you...
Okay, where else is that legal for someone to violate your body autonomy and you kill them?
So here's the thing.
Your life is in imminent danger.
All right, so...
It's not.
All right,
It
so...
doesn't exist.
All right, so... Again, I'm gonna bring up another inanimate object, but these arguments, I don't like using them, but they work on men a lot. So do you think that if somebody breaks into your house and they are threatening you, or even if they're not threatening you, let's say you don't know whether or not they're being threatening, do you think you have the right, because of the fact that that person just busted in your window, you have the right to, defend yourself and open fire on that person? Maybe not even open fire, but just defend yourself?
Defend yourself.
Fight back against an intruder. I don't know. Defend yourself.
You don't have the right to kill them.
You think that if somebody breaks into your house, you don't have the right to kill them? Because even if you don't know that like that person could possibly or could have something on them that could kill you?
Is your life in imminent danger?
I mean, yes, I think so. If somebody were to break down my door right now, I'm gonna think my life is in imminent danger, because who the fuck does that for any other reason except to probably hurt somebody else or take what is in my house, or in my case, my apartment.
So unless your life is in imminent danger, you cannot kill them. If they steal something from you,
bro, I'm not gonna lie. I think that response is cap. I think you would most likely immediately go into a state of defending yourself in that instant. But anyways, I think that
people rob people all the time and they don't kill them. The person getting robbed doesn't kill them.
Right, they don't kill them, but in many cases they do kill them because they don't know. But anyways, I think
Not in any cases. Not in any cases, because if they were, they would be charged with murder.
Wait, no, people, this happens all the time where somebody breaks into somebody's house and they get shot and that person doesn't get charged with murder because the person literally broke into their house. There are laws literally in states. I think Florida has a stand your ground law. Like these are literally laws that happen, and there are cases where this kind of shit happens all the time, and the person who defended themselves gets off scot-free because it was self-defense. Like, you don't get charged for murder when someone is actively trying to harm you, my guy. But anyways, the reason why I bring up that argument is because in my opinion, it's very synonymous to pregnancy, because what ends up happening is, regardless of whether the sex is consensual, once the egg cell has been fertilized by the sperm, once the egg cell releases its chemicals, whatever, that welcomes in the sperm, and the sperm gets broken down and it penetrates the egg cell and the egg gets fertilized. The egg then floats down through the fallopian tube and it attaches itself to the uterine lining, regardless of whether or not the woman had sex consensually or not. So, in my opinion, because of the fact that this is something that happens regardless of whether she is assaulted or regardless of whether the sex is consensual, I think she should have a say in whether or not it happens, because she's not purposely putting that thing inside of her. And also, if you, which I'm pretty sure you believe that life begins at conception, if you concede to the idea that life begins at conception, then you would also understand that a man has responsibility in a woman getting pregnant. So instead of us limiting the person that could only get pregnant once a year, when there are people running around that could get thousands upon thousands of people pregnant, why are we not looking at forcing men to get vasectomies? Did he get disconnected or did he just leave because he was mad? I'm gonna stop the recording right there though.